I all in this session will try to understand what is AWS Redshift. So probably the names sounds completely different. Redshift. So there won't be much content in the name, right? So now we'll try to understand what exactly the AWS Redshift is all about, and we'll try to cover all this agenda in this session. Fine. So we'll move on with what is Redshift, why do we require, and do we have any other types of Redshift and components, and how does AWS Redshift work? Fine. Okay, so now we'll move on to what is AWS Redshift. So AWS Redshift is a fully managed petabyte scale cloud data warehouse. So mainly it's a warehouse, data warehouse. We can call it as so. Redshift is a data warehouse. So how they have been designed is for online analytical processing. Fine. So for online analytical processing of structure as well as semi-structured data. So assume that you have the customer data with your end and you want to analyze the data based on some certain criteria. So in those cases, we used to initial days we used to go with Excel, and we need to manually do the things, and also they're on the Office 365 upgraded themselves, and they provided the different kinds of charts for different scenarios, and they have optimizes the number of steps and many things. But still, we could not able to achieve the things. So because though we imported the Excel or the CSV file, and we used to select the data and we need to do all the things. So the organization will always look something better. Okay, so like if the thing's going to happen in an hour, so they want that things to be happen within at least 5 to 10 minutes on that case. So gradually, the parallel thing we might have already come across, that is the Power BI, their own Microsoft product. So likewise in Amazon also they have the Redshift. So that is the data warehouse where we can store our data for further analytical process. So irrespective of analytical process, you can perform based on the available things like that. So what exactly the BI tools is what? So it enables organizations to analyze vast amount of data using the SQL based commands. So either if you are more familiar with SQL based command, so directly you can go and query the content of the table. Okay, or else you can go with the business intelligence, that is a BI tool. So making it ideal for big data analytics and business intelligence workload. So this is more very much that is important when it comes to an organization, because they want to analyze their work progress or the project management, how it is going, even the organization's growth also. To analyze all those things, in olden days it used to take months together. So nowadays they have been optimized to few days or the weeks. So how? Because of all these tools. So in AWS, to do all these process, they have the service called, that is Redshift. Okay, so this Redshift is making it ideal for big data analytics and business intelligence workload. Right. So we just understand what it is. Now we'll try to understand why the Redshift, why not others like things. Okay, so one is scalability. So we cannot expect the organization based data could be something about 1 TB or 2 TB. So each and every day, so the organization won't be performing with any one of the clients. So they're going to interact with multiple clients, and they do have the multiple business parallel been running. So the data what they are generating an hour will be increased day by day, so subject to clients or else organization transactions. So in those cases, if the organization is maintaining the data center for their own analytical purpose, means they need to keep purchasing the infrastructure again and again. So it will be huge cost, not only purchasing but they have to maintain too. So even for the usage and more availability. So we can avoid all those things. So when we choose the redshift thing, so almost the petabyte of data can be scaled. Okay, so you need not worry about the storage thing here, and it's more cost effective, offers on demand pricing and reserved instance pricing with significant savings. So on demand pricing, so like, so sometimes we may go and try to process the 10 TB of data concurrently. On that case, we require the servers to be more. On that case, the on-demand pricing and the things will move on. So subject to utilization of the resources. Else, only the reserved instance, initially we have taken some instance, right, to process the data. For that, minimal charges will be applied. So here we can optimize the purchase of infrastructure and maintenance of the infrastructure. Okay, so next is performance. So uses massively parallel processing. So when it comes to performance of Redshift, so we can do parallel processing, not only one task. We can go with multiple tasks with different tables too. Even they have the capabilities to process that. That is columnar storage as well as data compression to deliver fast query execution. So next is integration. So obviously, when we are doing inside the AWS ecosystem, so it will be seamless integrations with AWS services, like for storing or keeping the data. We can store. We can use the S3, or else if you have data in your DynamoDB or RDS thing, so there also you can go with it, or the other BI tools also. So easy of uses, manage service with automated setup, backup, skillings, and maintenance. So we are not least bother about backup, scaling, maintenance, all thing. Everything is being taken care by the AWS. Only thing you need to take initial step, you need to opt for the service. That's it. So if you want automated setup, you just opt it. If you want backup, you can just opt it, like that. So next is security. So even apart from buying the infrastructure and keeping the maintenance people, though we need to add another most important thing is security. So the data integration should be valued in any organization, because if they lost any of the organization data, so the another organization may encatch that data, and they may going to apply the algorithm as the organization is going. To avoid all those things, we need security. So the security even is being taken care by the AWS Redshift only. Fine. So we'll try to understand different types of Redshift offerings. Like in AWS, Redshift comes in three main offerings. So one is Redshift provisioned, another one is serverless, another one is Spectrum. So we'll try to understand what is provisioned. Traditional offering with node-based pricing, allow control over types and number of nodes in the customer. It's completely customizable and it's a manual thing. So Redshift serverless. So we all know that serverless. So ideal for users who don't want to manage infrastructure. So here we need to manage the infrastructure, like creating, even though it is being provisioned in the cloud based. So you need to manage. So when we are going with serverless, you need not to worry about all those things. You just go and create, you do your work. So rest, maintaining the server, everything is being taken care by the serverless Redshift automatically scales compute resource based on workload. So Redshift Spectrum. To optimize the cost, it would be better to go with serverless. So enables querying the data directly S3 without needing to load it into Redshift. So to process the data for analytical purpose or analyzing things, you would not need to import the data or the data from the any other source. So if you have your data in S3 or a DynamoDB, directly from there you can do the transaction thing. So it's not necessarily you required to load the data into your Redshift. Ideal for data lake architecture. So fine. So we just come across different types of offerings in Redshift. Just choose accordingly based on your work. So next is component of AWS Redshift. So we just understand the types or the different kinds of Redshift. We'll try to understand what common thing we can have it in AWS Redshift while we start creating it. So, first is leader node, that is manages client connection and query planning, that is distributes query to compute nodes and augmented. aggregated results. Next is compute node. So execute query in the parallel. So anything that computes, or if you are doing any transaction with the data, that is comes under compute node. That is retrieval of updating and analyzing the data. We will be writing some code, right, and storing of column returns data, intermediate that things. Next is node type. That is array 3. That is optimized for high performance work node with separation of storage as well as compute. Here two different server will be deployed. For storing it will be server and different one, and for computing it will be different. Next is DC2, that is dense compute nodes for performing sensitive applications, and then storage needs for cost effective storage also. Fine. Next, we all commonly known what is cluster is a collection of one or multiple nodes that works together for querying the execution. So if you have one application and you require multiple servers to run that application, so altogether they call it as cluster. Each server they may represent as node. Fine. How AWS Redshift work? So how does it work? So data integration. So we can load the data from various source like S3, DynamoDB database or on-premises system to into your Redshift using the copy command, or we can utilize the AWS Glue service. Next is storage. So stores data in the columnar format to optimize the compressions and retrieval for analytical workload. Here data will not be stored in the Excel format how they going to do. So nobody will go and look into the each and individual data. So what thing they want? So they want all the columns to be present. Like if there is an employee, means the separate table will be created for employee, the same the value they will be having that, and the employee id is the separate table things will be maintained, that is columnar format. So likewise they going to store the things. Next is query execution. So leader node parse SQL queries, create execution plans and distribute a task to compute the nodes, and compute nodes process the data in parallel. So we need to query, or we need to fetch the data, right, before we go and analyzing things. What should be analyzed, what parameters or the attributes should be taken to analyze. So for that the leader node will pass the query and gets the resultant values. So based on that the compute node will start the process in the parallel and send results back to the leader node itself once the process data got out. So next is massive parallel processing. So it's all something like a feature we can consider it. So divides data across multiple nodes. So if you have one leader node, we'll be having the multiple worker nodes. So it's completely subject to processing things. Okay, and ensure high query performance even with large data set. And integration. So works with the AWS Glue. That is, if you want to get data from different sources on that place, you can go with it. Next is backup and recovery. So automatically backup data to S3 and supports point in time recovery too. So now we'll try to understand how we can able to create the cluster configuration of it. We'll go through the theoretical one. Thereon we'll go and see everything in practical. Fine. So that is setting up the Redshift cluster. So initially, just navigate from your AWS console to just navigate to your Redshift service. Fine. Once after there, configure the cluster. That is, you need to just give the name for your cluster and the type. That is the instance or node type, what type you require, how many RAM and the CPUs you required, and number of nodes you required to run your or manage your data analyzing, and the name of your database, as well as for security reason we need to provide the credentials. So once after that, next thing it will prompt you for ensure that your cluster has access through the VPC security. So since whatever the resources or the service we going to create in AWS are created under the VPC, whether it is a default VPC or the custom VPC. Okay, and the VPC which is being created and the security group should have the permissions, or the port ingress port should be open to 54394 for Redshift in your security group. Okay, so or else if this port is not mentioned in your ingress port, so you won't be able to access the Redshift cluster. So it will block the traffic. Next, connect to the cluster. So this is the basic configuration of your cluster, and this is the security configuration. And thereon, how do we how we can able to access the cluster or the Redshift cluster? There are multiple ways, either by using the, that is, pgadmin, or SQL, that is MySQL workbench, or the Redshift. Inside, you can just access the thing in the AWS console itself. Next, once after you are accessing the thing, you can just load the data into the Redshift. So any of this medium, you just go and load the data. That is how we going to load the data. So if you are going with any of this, we will be going with the endpoint URL. So we can able to establish the connection. So for that also, you required to have the connection to be open. That is ingress, and the all ports should be open. That is HTTP, HTTPS, and custom port, everything. So just go there and create the table in the Redshift. If you are going with the console, AWS console, or if you want to import the data from different source, you can import it from S3 also. Next is querying the data. Querying the data means you are fetching the data, or updating the data, or modifying the data is both the same. And to analyze the data, we will be filtering the data, right? That is what the querying of data. So once after doing all those things, either we can pause up your cluster, or you can delete to avoid unnecessary charges. So if you don't require that cluster for data processing anymore, you are done with your work progress, everything. So you can either pause that to avoid unnecessary billing, or you can delete. Just pause the thing when you require to use after a month or 2 month. Or if you don't want that cluster to be used, it is not at all useful for me even after years, then go and just delete it, so that you can avoid unnecessary charges. Pausing the clusters if you are using the Redshift serverless, or delete cluster if you are no longer need it. Fine. So this is all about the AWS Redshift. For you people have completely understand the theoretical one, and now we'll go and see the practical thing through AWS account. Okay, so just log into your console. From here, try to navigate to Redshift using the global search bar. Fine, here is, so flat, simple, cost effective data warehouse. Okay, so once you log in, if you are using the free tier, then I would recommend you people to go with Redshift serverless free tier, since they have provided $300 credit to only to use the Redshift. Fine. So if not, if you are going with another clusters like we have already seen, right? So different one. So if you are going with that, you will incur the charges. That's the reason. Here it is, provision, cluster, dashboard, or serverless thing. Okay, so now we'll go and try to do this. So right now we'll try to create the cluster as per the things we saw, right? See here. So we'll be going with the default settings, or if you are going with the custom one, you need to provide the target namespace. That is, the namespace is nothing but you're going to creating the environment for your data things. Okay, so inside that namespace, you go and do the complete related work. For example, here they had provided the default namespace. If you are giving the product catalog namespace means anything that related is to product catalog are comes under that cluster like that. Okay. Next, obviously the staging area will be here, or the branching thing. So database name, that is they have provided the thing, and customize admin thing, we need to create the things. And okay, so this is, there is no much difference by choosing the custom one or the default settings. So if you are going with default, so automatically the things are set up priorly. Okay, so only thing now here, we'll go and try to associate the role if you have already created. If not, you just click, click on the create new IAM role. Okay, so here while creating the IAM role by default, so this policy or the permission will be added to that IAM role. So the policy are attached. So what are the things are attached to here, which is required to do any internal communication, all the things. Okay, along with that, here they have provided the three options like no additional, that is create the IAM without specifying the S3 bucket. So you require S3 bucket either to store the backup things or to pull the data how we want. Okay, so next is specify the S3 bucket. So if you have already created the bucket, then go with the specific S3 bucket where your data is exist. Or if you want, you don't know which bucket your data is exist, on that case you can just go with any S3 bucket. So would not recommend any S3 bucket, since it will go and try to access all the buckets. Okay, so always be ensure to go with the specific bucket, so that would be more convenient one. Okay, so since it's a demo, I will be going with the any S3 bucket. Okay, so hit on create role. So by default, the role or the IAM roles will be created. So IAM role is required to communicate from one AWS service to another AWS service. So the role is very much required on that case. So by default, the KMS key is doing, and we have not selected the audit logging. And here they have provided the work group name and the capacity, that is the serverless thing. So initial base capacity is 128 GB, and the security thing or the networking thing. Okay, so just save the configuration if you're okay with the default one, or just you can go ahead with the custom one also. So now it may take few minutes to complete. After completion, you can work with your data. So once the serverless or the cluster is created, you will be prompted to here. So from here, just click continue, and it will show you some spotlight features, what exactly the upgradation have been evolved, everything. Okay, so just ignore all those things, or if you want, you can just go through it. Fine. Now the serverless is being created. Okay, so that's not it. Okay. Okay, fine. So here is the namespace or the workload we have created. Okay, so just go into your namespace. Okay, so this is the cluster we have just created. Okay, so this is the name of the name cluster, and the status is available. Storage, we have used nothing as of now, and the staging or the branch is dev, and the namespace ID. Okay, so the work group namespace, that is okay. So if you want, you can just maintain the backup also, and also you can create the snapshot, and you can decide where to store. This is recovery one, and the database. So still we have not connected any databases, so that's the why it is showing like that. So when it comes to security and encryption, so though you can update here IAM permission by just getting into the manage IAM, and also you can maintain the security thing also, and the data shares. So whatever the analytical data we going to create, that will be accessed here. Fine. So now we'll go here and we'll try to query the data. That is, it will navigate to the Redshift query editor or the dashboard thing. Okay. So as of now, the default specs we have created. So if you are going with the federal user, like the query editor we to generate temporary password to connect to the database. So since we have not created any database either in RDS or DynamoDB, we will go with this one. So if you have your database, you can just go and select the thing. So you need to select, that is, provide the database username and password that you are connecting to. So if you have already database being created, you can just provide the credentials, or else you can go with this one secret one also. So we'll go with the federated user as of now. We'll create the thing. Okay. So by default, they have provided the native database as well as external database. So here we have some data sample values or the table. Okay, just we need to hit the create. So the database will be created here. So just for your practice purpose, you can just go and use these databases. Or if you have your own data set, there also you can go with that. Okay. So see here, they have predefinedly provided some set of queries. You can just go and run this one. So the resultant is here and result to. So this is the actual value, what that is the time taken to execute, and here is the expected one. Okay, so either you can expect that or you can view in the chart to see here. Just we'll close these so that it will be more visible. So if you are going with line chart, you can just go with, or if you are going with bar chart, you can go, you can just customize the thing how you want subject to your thing. So if you want Instagram, you can go, or if you want to go with pie chart, if it supports, it will going to display the pie chart value. If you are going with final like things, so this is how you going to analyze the things based on the data. So this is why the Redshift is more helpful in creating the analytical reports with the help of data thing. So since there will be huge number of data, it will be very hard to do the things, right? So once if you have written this query, and you can just manipulate the thing however you want, you can just select based on the requirements and all. Okay. So this is one kind, that is, I just taken an example from the existing or the default data. So if you want to, you have your data in either in S3 bucket or in your local system, you can just click on the load. So here we have the options like load from the S3 bucket. You can just browse the S3 bucket and select the data file which you have. So here I don't have any data set file, so we'll try to load from the local machine. Fine. Okay, and the delimiter, ignoring that, I'll just leave the thing as it is. So you need to mention the file format, which format you are uploading. Okay, so once you are all done, you just click on the next. Okay, so the staging Amazon S3 bucket is required and is not configured. So go to auto on settings. Okay, So probably we need to have the S3 bucket being created to store our things. That's what it's throwing an error. Okay, we'll try to get the data from the S3 only. Fine, I'll be updating the file to this existing one. Okay, next icon. Fine. So we'll move back, and if you want to create the custom tables, you can just go and create the database or the schema or the function however you want. It's something completely similar to the or Excel only. Okay. So if you want, you can just go select the whole bucket, or if you want, you can just go and select the each individual object. Okay. So okay, fine. This is the SV next 8. So if you have already existing table which is related to your present workload or importing data, you can just go with that by selecting the existing table. Already, if you have created the table and the same data with the updated values, if you are going with, you can just go with that. And if you are new, and I mean if you're completely new to things, you can just load the new table. Okay, and you need to choose the IAM here and provide the table name. So always ensure to give proper naming conventions, okay, which is related to one. Okay, we need to select the schema. Is it declared or the public one? We'll go with the public. Okay, so the customer table is created successfully. So now only the table is created, and I need to load the data, whatever the data I have in my things. Okay, so here we go and try to see here in development in public. I created the customer table. You should see that. Yeah, here we have, probably I haven't selected the dev environment, so that's the reason. So you can just select the table or show the table definition how you want. I will be selecting the table, and here it prompts me the command. So the query could not be run. The query limited to three connection has been reached. Close another connection. Okay. Okay. We'll go and run this only. So fine. Here we close these and select the table. We'll run. Okay, so now I have just imported all the data and we'll go and try to look here. You can also trace the data so how you want, that is by importing new things also by drawing the multiple lines. Okay, so here you can save the chart or you can export the chart either in the any of the images too. So fine. So you can just customize how you want your chart should look like. So if you are going with stage, okay, now we go with the bar, and here we need to select the columns so that we can able to get the data. Okay, so can some it is completely like similar to your Power BI thing. So if you have a data, you can just go with it and analyze the things. So this is all about the Redshift thing. So once you are done with all the things, just navigate back to your Redshift console and select and delete the namespace. The namespace cannot be deleted with the work group associated. Okay, so initially you need to delete the work group. So here we have work group configuration. Fine, so that is the namespace. So just delete this one and select anything which is associated, and ensure to deselect the final snapshot, that is the backup. We don't want any backup to be taken. Okay, so anything which is associated to all these workload will be deleted. Okay, so deleting progress or less is deleting default workspace. Okay, and you need to ensure here also. So here we can see the default name space. We should not able to see that if we are deleting the resources. So the status is deleting. Okay. So hopefully you people have understood the concept of AWS Redshift. Why do we use it and how do we use it? How we going to create the things and how we can able to import the data and how we can analyze the data and all. So thank you all for watching.